My family went bankrupt and my father forced me to marry out. They fell in love with the gentle older brother, but I fell in love with the hot-tempered younger brother. Xiao Yan blocked me in the room, grabbed my wrist and asked coldly. Jiang Yi, are you crazy? The person you should marry is my brother. I looked at the man who had gone nearly insane after my death in my previous life and had risked his life to avenge me. Xiao Yan, you are crazier than me. The story is about to begin. If you like it, remember to like and follow. I don't like Xiao Hengyu, I like Xiao Yan. As soon as I finished speaking, everyone at the table changed their expressions. You kid. My mother pulled me hard and asked, what nonsense are you talking about? My father also frowned and lowered his voice to tell me to stop messing around. Because in their eyes, Xiao Hengyu is outstanding and excellent in everything. Xiao Yan is just the opposite. Manic, violent, and accomplishing nothing. When Xiao Yan, who was sitting across from me, heard what I said, he was also stunned. The fork in his hand fell onto the plate with a clang. Only Xiao Hengyu managed to maintain his composure and gave a stiff smile. That's not bad, that's a good thing. The faces of Qiao Dongliang and his wife beside them turned pale, but they kept silent. After all, even though my family went bankrupt, my father's position in the securities industry is still there. The Qiao family is currently stuck in a critical stage in a major project, so it is naturally impossible for them to fall out with us. Let's eat first, the food is getting cold. Thinking that Xiao Yan seemed to have stomach problems since childhood, I said lightly. No one said a word at the table, and everyone lowered their heads one after another. Xiao Yan had a gloomy face and just kept eating, as if he hadn't eaten at all. I felt like laughing and couldn't help but curl the corners of my lips. Xiao Yan. Haven't seen you for a long time. As you can imagine, the meal was unpleasant. In the end, only Xiao Yan and I were still eating, one slowly and leisurely, the other wolfing down the food. He didn't dare to look up, as if he hadn't eaten. I glanced at Xiao Yan who was lowering his head, stood up and said I wanted to use the bathroom. Then he walked towards the corner with ease. But just as he washed his hands and was about to go out, a tall figure flashed in quickly. What did you mean by that? Xiao Yan frowned, leaned against the wall with a dark face and asked me. I watched him tilt his head and smile. Literally. I don't like Xiao Hengyu, I like you. If we must marry, I choose to marry you. Xiao Yan was stunned and looked at me as if I were a fool. You don't like Xiao Hengyu, but you like me? Are you sick? I twitched my lips and was at a loss for words. After all, in Xiao Yan's eyes, where his brother is, he is just a foil. How could anyone choose him when they didn't like his brother? Before I could reply, Xiao Yan's face darkened, as if he was certain that I was playing a trick on him. The next second, he punched the wall next to me with a fierce look in his eyes. Jiang Yi, I don't care what your purpose is, just stay away from me. Otherwise I'll show you how to write the word regret. Do you understand? I looked at the gloomy man in front of me, and Xiao Yan from my previous life suddenly flashed through my mind. 3 days after my death, my broken body lay unattended in the morgue. It was he who found me, tears falling on me one by one, and finally he hugged me with red eyes. He said, Jiang Yi, don't be afraid. I'll take you home, and I'll never let anyone hurt you again. My vision suddenly became blurry and I couldn't help but tremble. Seeing this, Xiao Yan panicked and subconsciously tried to distance himself. You. The next second, I grabbed his collar and pulled him closer. Her lips almost touched the corner of his. Xiao Yan, why can you like me but I can't like you? I just want to like it. Xiao Yan was dumbfounded, his eyes wide open. He raised his head in a gesture of surrender and dared not touch me. When the hell did I ever say I liked you? You really don't like it? I stared at him intently, and after a moment, the corners of my lips slowly curled up. Her fingers slid down his collar, across his chest, waist, and abdomen. A quick glance down. So what are you doing? With a loud bang, Xiao Yan's face turned red from his neck to his ears. Pushed me away suddenly. Are you crazy? There was fear in his eyes, and he quickly moved 1/2 meter away from me, his hair standing on end. Pointed at me and told me not to get close to him. So I stood there against the wall, looking like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water and said, What's wrong? I just like you. Your parents asked me to pick it. I chose you. You are totally unreasonable. Xiao Yan was so angry that his forehead turned black. He frowned and asked me if I was mentally ill. I laughed even harder and said yes. I have a disease that will kill me without you. Xiao Yan turned his head and cursed fuck, the tips of his ears turned red and bleeding. Ian, what's wrong? At this moment, Xiao Hingyu's voice suddenly came from the living room. Xiao Yan's expression changed slightly, and he gave me a warning look. I don't like you. Go away and don't say you'll choose me. After saying that, he turned and left, but instead of going to the living room, he quickly went upstairs. I looked at his fleeing back, and an indescribable bitterness spread in my heart. This is the man who died without a complete body for me in his previous life. The blind date ended in a bad mood, and when I got home my parents gave me a good scolding. They said I was blinded by greed. Xiao Hingyu has such good conditions, but I fell in love with Xiao Yan. I think you don't know what's good for you. My father was furious. My mother advised me to meet Xiao Hingyu alone another day to apologize and get closer to him. My heart aches a little as I look at my relatives who are closer than blood. Dad, Mom, what if I say that Xiao Hingyu is a hypocritical bastard? You still insist on me marrying him? My mother was stunned for a moment, frowned and said, how is that possible? The Qiao family's eldest son has been renowned for his excellence since childhood. How did he become so sanctimonious? Then she started to persuade me, saying that everyone has shortcomings and I should just be patient with it. Be obedient, that Xiao Yan has a bad temper and is incompetent, maybe he's the Qiao family's illegitimate child. What can you achieve by following him? Follow Hingyu, all the Qiao family's wealth will be yours in the future. Watching my mother's earnest persuasion, I suddenly remembered. In my previous life, when I was abused and beaten half to death by Xiao Hingyu, they also advised me to be patient in this way. But they don't know what kind of torture I have been through. Xiao Hingyu appears to be gentle and outstanding on the surface, but secretly he is a violent paranoid. He grew up under the pressure of his parents and forced himself to become excellent. And the accumulated dissatisfaction and pain eventually turned into violence behind the scenes. Every time he came home drunk, he would turn everything into beatings and vent his anger on me. Xiao's parents are also beasts wearing human skin masks. Not only did they condone him, they also helped him threaten me. I tried to ask my parents for help, but all I got in return was their cold dissuasion. Finally, Xiao Hingyu became even more aggressive. After he got tired of playing with me, he started to drag me to socialize in the business world. I was on the verge of collapse and became mentally ill. He orchestrated an accident that killed me and received a substantial insurance payout. He also used his hypocritical face to gain the reputation of being a loving and good husband. And after I died, my parents didn't even think about investigating the truth. Only Xiao Yan. He went crazy after my death, bit by bit, step by step, driving the people who hurt me into a dead end. Finally, he jumped into the sea holding my ashes. I closed my eyes and my heart grew colder and colder. In this life, I only want Xiao Yan. I became obsessed with Xiao Yan and always went to see him under the pretext of looking for Xiao Hingyu. He was so annoyed that he drove me away with a gloomy face several times. Finally, he just started avoiding me. But after living this life again, I know a lot about him. It was easy to find him at the racing club. He was wearing a black racing suit, with broad shoulders, narrow waist and long legs, and his good figure was clearly visible. This is way more extreme than just wearing gray sweatpants. I narrowed my eyes, gritted my teeth and cursed him for being disrespectful. As I walked over, I saw several men and women also coming over. One of the girls was about to hug him. I took a big step forward and put my hands around Xiao Yan's neck. Excuse me, my fiancé doesn't like other women touching him. In one sentence, the faces of everyone present changed. Xiao Yan's face suddenly turned red, and she pushed me away and said, "What nonsense are you talking about?" Then he stammered and introduced me to others, saying that I was his friend, not his fiancé. The people around him looked at each other subtly, laughed and changed the subject without asking any more questions. The girl who was about to look for Xiao Yan came up again and asked Xiao Yan to take her for a ride. Xiao Yan looked at me hesitantly. I smiled and said okay. Then he raised his hand and placed it on the shoulder of a boy next to him. "Brother, can you take me for a ride? I've never tried this before, but it looks exciting." The boy's eyes lit up, and he smiled from ear to ear, saying, "Of course." I turned around and prepared to follow him. The next second, his arm was pulled away by a strong force. Xiao Yan pulled me to his side with a dark face. "I'll take her." I curled my lips and smiled. In the next few days, no matter where Xiao Yan went, I could always find him first. When he was sleeping at home, I would go upstairs and pull off his covers. Whenever he goes out to play, I follow him closely. I just like to see him getting so angry but not wanting to be mean to me. After a few days, the way he looked at me changed. Finally, he warned me fiercely that if I continued to follow him, I wouldn't blame him for being rude. I was very curious about how he was going to be rude to me, so I went to the bar he was hanging out at that night. He seemed not surprised at all and did not chase me away right away. Instead, they let me sit down and drink and play games with them. As for the wine, it must be strong liquor, and the game is the cliché truth or dare. What I didn't expect was the girl who dared to sit next to him. It was obvious that the girl had been coveting him for a long time, and half of her body was almost pressed against him. Just after losing a game, someone urged the girl to kiss Xiao Yan. The girl's face turned red, and she looked at Xiao Yan and said, "This is not good." Xiao Yan's expression was gloomy, but he did not refute it immediately. The booing became even more enthusiastic. Seeing that girl turned her head to look at Xiao Yan again, I suddenly understood what Xiao Yan meant. He wanted to use this girl to force me away. I took a deep breath and felt a little angry. I know that Xiao Yan pushed me away again and again because he felt that he could not control his mania. Worried that it would hurt me, and even more worried that I would regret it. After all, in his eyes, he was just a useless person who had accomplished nothing. Although he doesn't like Xiao Hingyu either, at least Xiao Hingyu is excellent and can bring me happiness in the eyes of others. But what about himself? Doesn't it hurt him to see me and Xiao Hingyu together? I closed my eyes, and when I opened them again I suddenly stood up. The next second, in full view of everyone, I lifted my legs and sat on Xiao Yan. I glanced at the person next to me and said, "I'm sorry, sister, he's mine." Suddenly, there was dead silence all around. Xiao Yan's face changed drastically, and he stared at me, speechless. I lowered my head slowly and saw his Adam's apple roll suddenly. "You, what are you doing? You." After I finished speaking, I bit his lips. For a moment, I felt like the person under me had stopped breathing. But his hot chest reminded me that this man was alive. Even when I distanced myself from him, Xiao Yan kept his eyes wide open, as if the sky had fallen. I was amused and puzzled, and then suddenly felt sad. Xiao Yan kissed me. After I died in my previous life. After he had suppressed it for so long. It's a pity that I had lost my temperature at that time and could not feel his warmth. When I came to my senses, Xiao Yan's face was already red and pale, and he angrily told me to get out. Then he jumped up and rushed out. "Where are you going?" "Toilet." Xiao Yan slammed the door hard, and before he finished, he gave me a threatening look. "You. Don't follow me." I said oh and leaned back on the sofa, but the corners of my mouth couldn't fall. How can he be so cute? Why didn't I find out sooner? After Xiao Yan left, the others couldn't help but talk about me. I stood still as a mountain. The girl just now seemed very unwilling. She bit her lip and asked what the relationship between me and Xiao Yan was. I glanced at her and said, "Didn't I see it just now? But brother Xiao Yan has never mentioned you before." "So what?" I looked at the girl and said, "So you think he likes you?" "Sister, don't deceive yourself about emotional matters." After saying that, I stood up and walked to the sofa on the other side, out of sight, out of mind. However, what I didn't expect was that someone would come up to me and chat with me without any eyes. The man looked at me with a lewd look and said he wanted to buy me a drink. Then he put his hand on my shoulder. I just frowned when I heard a sound of wind breaking through the air behind me. Before he could turn around, the man next to him was knocked to the ground by a punch. Xiao Yan grabbed his collar and said in a deep voice, "You're fucking crazy." The man was nearly knocked unconscious, but after coming to his senses he began to struggle. "Are you fucking sick? What does it have to do with you if I buy her a drink? Let me go." Xiao Yan's face turned cold, and he decisively punched down again. "Say it again, if you dare." Seeing that Xiao Yan's expression was a little strange, my heart sank and I stood up. The man who didn't want to be beaten was very stubborn and kept provoking Xiao Yan regardless of the consequences. Shouting and calling him sick. The next moment, Xiao Yan's expression changed completely. He grabbed the wine bottle next to him and smashed it hard on the man's head. Then he started punching the other person on the head. Blood splattered and screams were heard everywhere, and chaos soon broke out. Seeing that the person on the ground was almost out of breath from the beating, I gritted my teeth and rushed over to hug Xiao Yan. "That's enough, stop hitting me." Xiao Yan turned a deaf ear and swung his elbow, brushing against the side of my face. I endured the pain and continued to call him, turning his head over with all my strength as if risking my life. "Look at me, Ian." Xiao Yan's fist suddenly stopped in the air, and his dark and empty pupils quickly shrank. After a few seconds, his breathing slowed down. I breathed a sigh of relief and pressed him against my chest. It's okay now." With my constant comfort, Xiao Yan finally calmed down. He was so calm that it was almost eerie. The police arrived soon and I went with them to take a statement. He was very quiet throughout the whole process, said everything he needed to say, and finally paid the fine. Until I came out of the police station. He suddenly tilted his head and asked me, "Aren't you afraid of me?" I shook my head. I wanted to speak again but he interrupted me. "Jiang-yi, I'm sick, do you understand?" He tapped his temple, his dark eyes fixed on me, and said word by word. I couldn't control my violence. "You chose me, aren't you afraid that one day I might beat you to death?" I opened my mouth and said, "You won't." He asked me why I thought he couldn't. "I can continue to be free and easy without you. But with you, I have to pay attention to myself and control myself at all times. You're just a burden, understand?" My heart skipped a beat and I looked at the person in front of me and said, "Do you really think so? What if I say your brother is a hypocritical beast?" The darkness in his eyes flickered wildly, and his brows furrowed a little. But he didn't say anything for a long time. As if pondering what I meant by this. I looked at the person in front of me and nodded after a while. "Good. You like me to choose your brother, right?" "As you wish." On the third day after the falling out with Xiao Yan, the Qiao family held a birthday party for Qiao Hingyu in advance. Many upper-class people came to the banquet, and my parents naturally took me with them. However, what I never expected was that they had actually agreed with Qiao Dongliang and his wife to make a condom for me. Just when I was off guard, Qiao Hingyu stood on the stage and said he was going to announce good news. Then he smiled gently and looked at me. "Xiaoyi, come up." I stood there holding the wine glass, my brows furrowed little by little. But before I could even react, my parents pushed me onto the stage. There was warm applause from the audience, followed by a burst of discussion. "Jiang-yi, the daughter of the Jiang family? Does this mean a marriage is coming? I have to say, these two are a perfect match. But didn't I hear that the Jiang family had trouble a while ago? Doesn't that mean the Jiang family is marrying up?" Amidst the clamor, I felt as if I had returned to my previous life. At my wedding with Qiao Hingyu. The night before the wedding, I found out that Qiao Hingyu was having an affair with someone. I was so angry that I wanted to cancel the engagement. But he slapped her hard in the dressing room. That's when he revealed his true nature. But by then, I had no way out. The moment I stepped onto the red carpet, I tried my best to hold back my tears. I longed for someone to come and save me. But no. Xiao Yan had already left in disappointment before that. And I didn't even notice him. Now standing on such a stage again, I feel almost suffocated. Xiao Hingyu dared to push me to this point because he knew I had no way out. If I mess up today, the Jiang family and I will not only become a laughingstock. My parents will also be disgraced and harmed by others when they are down. "Xiaoyi, why are you daydreaming? Come and tell everyone our engagement date." Xiao Hingyu smiled and put the microphone in my hand. I looked at the hypocritical mask on his face and felt sick to my stomach. Ignoring him, I turned and looked straight towards the banquet entrance. "Xiao Yan, I'll only give you 3 seconds. If you don't show up in 3 seconds, I'll let you know how to write the word regret. 3, 2, 1. Bang! There was a loud bang from the door. I looked up in astonishment. Amidst the roar of a huge engine, a black supercar crashed into the wall and stopped. "Ah! Who is that? Are you crazy? Security! Where's the security? Someone's breaking in." In an instant, the entire banquet hall was filled with screams and chaos. I looked at the familiar-looking sports car not far away, and my eye twitched violently. "I told you to come here, not to fly over." The next second, the car door opened. A long leg wrapped in a black racing suit with red stripes stepped down. Then it goes all the way up, revealing a slender waist and well-defined chest muscles. Xiao Yan had a black coat draped over his shoulders and raised his hand to take off the helmet on his head. His slightly wet hair swayed slightly, and his sharp black eyes looked straight at me. The moment our eyes met, I gasped. Damn, why is my man so handsome? Qiao, the second young master of the Qiao family? He's crazy, driving in here. Where are his manners? Education? Haven't you heard that the second son of the Qiao family is a violent lunatic with a mental problem? Oh my god, it seems like calling him violent is an understatement. There was a lot of discussion around, and Xiao Hingyu next to me also frowned tightly. Ian, you. Elder brother. Xiao Yan interrupted and looked at Xiao Hingyu and said word by word. It's not good to steal my people while I'm away, right? With just one sentence, the audience fell into dead silence. My parents and the Qiao couple were shocked, while the other guests were confused. If I remember correctly, I think Jiang Yi chose me for marriage? Xiao Yan looked at me again, his dark pupils emitting an extremely soft yet sharp dark light. In full view of everyone, he walked towards me step by step. What do you think, Miss Jiang? After he finished speaking, Xiao Yan stood in front of me, bowed slightly and made an inviting gesture towards me. I looked at his open hands and my heart started pounding. My eyes suddenly felt dry. It was as if at this moment I had crossed the torrent of time and was once again standing on the stage of the wedding in my previous life. But this time, someone came to rescue me. Yes. The moment I handed my hand to Qiao Yan, he immediately held it tightly. The warmth from my hand spread all the way to my palm, and at this moment I finally felt my rebirth. The nightmare of my last life is gradually fading away from me. Future. It was the hands of Qiao Yan and I tightly clasped together. Jiang Yi. Seeing that Qiao Yan and I were in love, Xiao Hingyu couldn't help but frown. But before he could say anything else, Xiao Yan snorted coldly and pulled me over. Without paying any attention to anyone else, he took me out of the banquet hall. I originally wanted to stay for a few minutes to clean up the mess, but looking at Xiao Yan's resolute profile. Suddenly I thought, forget it. Is there anything more important than him at the moment? Following Xiao Yan out, I saw another new sports car parked nearby. There was a man sitting inside who was also wearing a racing suit. He was stunned when he saw Xiao Yan bringing me out. Holy crap, are you serious, Brother Yan? You're snatching my sister-in-law away now? Stop talking nonsense and get out of here. Xiao Yan frowned impatiently, snatched the car keys from his hand and pushed him away. The car is inside, go drive it yourself, I'm leaving first. As he finished speaking, he had already pushed me onto the passenger seat. I was so confused that I didn't even bother to fasten my seatbelt. TSK. Xiao Yan suddenly became even more impatient, and leaned over with a dark face to help me button the button. I didn't expect that after pulling it several times, the seatbelt got stuck. He stopped halfway in front of me, neither moving forward nor backward, and his ears turned red. What the hell? I chuckled and my chest accidentally rubbed against his arm. Almost instantly, Xiao Yan bounced back to his original position as if he had seen a ghost. You, do it yourself. He was practically smoking, his face dark with a hint of red. The man outside the car was stunned. I coughed lightly, suppressed my smile, and fastened my seatbelt myself. The next second, the car drove out with a hum, which seemed like a dangerous move. I tilted my head slightly and couldn't help laughing at Xiao Yan's blushing face. After a while, the redness on his neck finally faded away. His expression darkened slightly. What did you mean when you said Xiao Hingyu was a beast the other day? What did he do to you? The corners of my lips dropped a little, but I still didn't take my eyes off Xiao Yan. Isn't it a little late to ask me now? I said slowly that since he had ruined Xiao Hingyu's birthday party, he was basically tied to me. However, Xiao Yan frowned and said that he didn't mean to make such a big fuss. If that idiot third brother hadn't insisted on me betting on cars with him, I wouldn't have been late. I glanced at the car logo in front and raised my eyebrows slightly. It seems that he got this car by gambling. Suddenly I remembered that on the day I married Xiao Hingyu in my previous life, he seemed to have been in a car accident. He hasn't touched a race car since then. I frowned and was about to speak when he interrupted me again. Also, don't think that I'm that to you. I'm trying to help you, and I want to find out what you know. Xiao Yan said with a straight face, as for helping the Jiang family. Although he is not as rich and powerful as the Qiao family, he will do his best. I looked at him, narrowed my eyes, and said nothing. Seeing that I didn't move, he frowned, hesitated for a while and said, "It's okay if I don't want to marry him. I'll help you find another way." Xiao Yan, if you say one more word, I'll fuck you right here. I looked at Xiao Yan coldly and said. For 3 full seconds, the car was dead silent. Xiao Yan turned his head mechanically, with a hint of confusion in his wide eyes. The rest was filled with terror. To say something like this at this point is like putting your pants down and not recognizing who you are. You are vile, shameless, and irresponsible. No, that's not what I meant. What do you mean by not that? Am I burdening you, bothering you, or forcing you? I narrowed my eyes and stared at Xiao Yan, moving slightly closer. If you don't want to get married, why bother attending the banquet? I feel so wronged, why don't you just send me back to Qiao Hingyu? The worst that can happen is that I will die. It's better than being disliked here. Xiao Yan was stunned. He didn't even bother looking ahead and spoke to me anxiously. What nonsense are you talking about? What's this about life and death? I said that's not what I meant. He explained to me in a panic and almost bit his tongue. I looked at the face of the person in front of me and suddenly felt a little reluctant to tease him. But if what he said wasn't so irritating, I wouldn't have deliberately provoked him like this. Thinking of the crazy things he did for me in my previous life, I closed my eyes and said, enough. Xiao Yan paused. The next second, I leaned over and kissed him hard on the lips. If you drive improperly, your loved ones will shed tears. Don't learn from them. With a swish, the tire skidded violently. Xiao Yan made a sharp turn and parked the car on the side of the road. Jiang Yi. After shouting at me angrily, Xiao Yan glared at me but was speechless. Finally, with a red face, he uttered. Do you know that what you did just now was very dangerous? I raised my eyebrows and said, of course I know. But rather than having you send me back, I'd rather die with you. With a click, the seat belt slid down. Before Xiao Yan could recover from his shock, I moved sideways and pushed him down onto the seat. Glancing at him, I slowly leaned forward. The corner of her lips brushed across his lips, nose, eyes. Finally, she bit his ear. Mute opening. Being a playboy is at least better than being a resentful evil ghost. The moment the words fell, I felt a change in Xiao Yan. His body became tense and stiff. With a smile on my lips, I held down his wildly beating heart and gently called his name, Ah Yan. The driving seat was small and the temperature suddenly became scorching hot. Xiao Yan's hands on my waist tightened little by little, with a burning heat. I looked at his Adam's apple which was rolling wildly due to nervousness, chuckled and kissed him. Boom boom boom. Hey, no parking here, didn't you see any? Before he finished speaking, the traffic police outside the car window froze in place. The 6 eyes met, and there was dead silence. I slowly raised my eyebrows and thought to myself, Uncle, you are already an adult, how come you don't have any tact at all? Xiao Yan, who was lying under him, came to his senses and was shocked. He was trying frantically to restore the scene to normal, but the more he hurried, the more his hands touched the wrong places. In the end, the whole person is going crazy. The traffic police outside couldn't bear to watch and turned their heads away silently. Well, just drive away as quickly as possible and remember to pay the fine later. After saying that, he left with a red face and cursing. Inside the car, I sat back in the passenger seat with some regret. Are you going to take me back? Xiao Yan, no thanks. Oh, do I need to emphasize that I want to be with you? No, that's not necessary. Okay, can we go home now? I'm tired. Xiao Yan said nothing and quickly started the car. I grinned at the car window. Little guy, I can't cure you. After Xiao Yan and I left, Xiao Hingyu cleaned up the mess. In order to maintain his good image as a modest gentleman, he announced to the public that the person I chose was his younger brother. Because my younger brother didn't come, he was looking after me. In fact, what he wanted to announce was the good news between me and Xiao Yan. Finally, I also tactfully said that Xiao Yan also has his strengths, and hoped that Xiao Yan and I would receive everyone's blessings. As soon as these high-sounding words came out, Xiao Yan and I instantly became the target of public criticism. Some are scolding me. They said that I, the daughter of the Jiang family, had such an outstanding brother, but I didn't like him and chose a loser. Some were scolding Xiao Yan, listing all the outrageous things he had done over the years. It's no surprise that he did such a disgusting thing, mocking the fact that he was worlds apart from Xiao Hingyu. It's such a shame for young Master Qiao, a talented talent picked out of 100, to be insulted like this. That's right, but I don't think Xiao Er and Miss Jiang will be gone for long. An ignorant little girl, a violent maniac with a sick brain, tsk. Amidst the sighs, I just lay at home and planned my own affairs. After what I experienced in my previous life, this level is nothing. The most important thing for me right now is to persuade Xiao Yan to return to Xiao's enterprise. If we don't take back what belongs to him, we will have a hard time in the future. Thinking of this, I stood up quickly, hummed a song and put on my makeup beautifully. I haven't seen Xiao Yan for 2 days, and I feel itchy. I want to see him blush. As soon as I finished cleaning and opened the door, I saw my parents sitting in the living room with sad faces. When they saw me come out, their faces suddenly became even longer and they asked me where I was going. Xiao family. I replied and was about to leave, but my mother stood up and walked over. Looking at her expression, I knew without her saying a word that she was going to blame me for choosing Xiao Yan again. I raised my hand to interrupt her. Mom, don't worry about the problems at home. The Qiao family won't dare not help solve them. As for the rest. I looked at my mother and said word by word. You didn't care about me before, and you don't have to care about me from now on. I will provide you with a life of plenty, food and clothing, nothing else. After saying that, I strode away without looking back. After I died in my previous life, my soul didn't dissipate for some reason. That's why I can see what Xiao Yan did for me. I saw my parents too. I saw that they were sad for me for a while, and then I went abroad at the suggestion of the Qiao family. Later, he adopted a godson abroad. It didn't take long for me to get over the shadow of my death. I should have guessed it. Although I am the only daughter in the Jiang family, they don't love me. I am insignificant in the face of money and power. Besides, they don't like daughters, thinking that they will get married anyway. If my father hadn't been unable to have another child due to health reasons, they wouldn't have only had me as their only child. So after I died, I didn't expect them to be in much pain. But when I really saw their indifference, I felt so painful that my heart trembled. At that time, I felt that there was no point in living again. Until I saw Xiao Yan later. I watched him cry while holding my body, and watched him completely break off relations with the Qiao family. Watching him avenge me alone. In order to deal with the Qiao family, he even knelt on the ground and begged for help. He was beaten half to death, and his leg, which had already been injured, was completely crippled. My soul was deeply moved at that moment. I swear. I will never let him suffer injustice again. When I arrived at Qiao's house, I heard the sound of breaking glass as soon as I entered the door. This was followed by Qiao's father's furious scolding. If you don't want to be in this house, get out. Who do you think you are? If it weren't for the Qiao family, would you have everything you have now? Then came the hypocritical voices of dissuasion from Qiao's mother and Xiao Hingyu. I pursed my lips slightly, already guessing who they were scolding. But given Xiao Yan's personality, would he just let him scold him like that? My brows sank and I walked in. I saw the big fish tank in the living room was broken and the fish inside fell to the ground, but none of them moved. It looked like he had died a long time ago. In addition, there was a blood-stained ashtray on the ground. Xiao Yan stood on the ground covered with water stains and broken glass, with blood oozing from the wound on his forehead. For a moment, my chest felt like it was going to explode. Are they crazy to touch Xiao Yan? I strode forward and went straight to Xiao Yan and asked him what was going on. He didn't expect me to appear suddenly. His dark face froze and he asked me why I was there. I asked you what happened, who hit you? Maybe it was because my expression was too ugly. Xiao Yan opened his mouth but no words came out. Mr. Qiao on the opposite side had a dark face and said in a deep voice that he was the one who smashed it, so what? Seeing that the situation was not right, Xiao Hingyu hurried out to ease the atmosphere. He explained to me while comforting his father. It was said that Ian was in a bad mood or something, and killed his father's favorite fish with medicine. Someone has already identified that the powder is a drug Xiao Yan takes to suppress his emotions. Dad was a little angry and gave me a lecture. Before he could finish, some scenes from my previous life suddenly flashed through my mind. In an instant, I stared at Xiao Hingyu and wished I could go over and kill him. I took a deep breath and stood still. He just turned his head to look at Xiao Yan. Did you give me the medicine? Xiao Yan was stunned and said of course not. But then he lowered his head, said with a cold face, forget it. That's it, it doesn't matter. I said of course it matters. Why should you suffer the loss if it wasn't your fault? After saying that, I looked at everyone in the Chow family, and my eyes fell on Xiao Hingyu's face. If I remember correctly, he was also taking that kind of medication. Why don't uncle and aunt suspect him? Mother Chow was stunned when she heard this and looked at her son hurriedly. But he didn't care whether his son was a suspect or not, but rather why his son took the medicine. Xiao Hingyu's face froze for a moment, and then he said, how could it be possible? I don't know where Xiaoyi heard this, but I'm in good health and never take medicine. Fart. I interrupted him calmly and said that he told me this in person. Xiao Hingyu's face darkened, and he was about to speak when I interrupted him. If you don't believe me, why don't you just ask someone to check his room? Mr. Chiao's face was already ugly. He became even more furious after hearing my continuous questioning and unscrupulous swearing. Miss Jiang, are you saying that I wronged Xiao Yan? Someone, go check it out. I want to see who wrongly accused whom. After saying that, the two men immediately turned around and went upstairs. Xiao Hingyu's expression changed completely. It was too late for him to stop them, and he could only watch as his two men quickly came down from upstairs. There is an extra bottle of medicine in my hand. Mr. Chiao, this medicine was indeed found in young Master Chiao's room. With just one sentence, everyone present changed their expressions. But then, Xiao Hingyu stood up to explain. He said he was under a lot of stress recently, so the doctor prescribed some medicine for him. Upon hearing this, Chiao's mother hurried forward to show concern. Father Chiao seemed to realize something, and his face turned blue and red. Okay, no need to check anymore. Xiao Hingyu glanced at Xiao Yan and said, just think of it as him drugging her. Dad, you're not feeling well, don't be angry anymore. It also makes others laugh at it. I almost laughed when I saw Xiao Hingyu's face. It's not okay to confront him directly, and it's better to find out the truth. Xiao Hingyu's eyes flashed and he looked at me helplessly. Ask me what I want. As if he was really the one who was wronged. I remained indifferent and pushed Xiao Yan beside me to the front. If the eldest master insists on admitting that it was him, then apologize to Xiao Yan. You. When Mr. Chiao heard this, he glared at him, but was stopped by Xiao Hingyu. He smiled faintly and looked at me steadily, then turned to Xiao Yan and said, sorry. I shouldn't have wronged you, brother. Just the word brother carries a hint of gnashing of teeth. After he finished speaking, the surroundings fell silent. Then Xiao Yan lowered his head and dragged me away without saying a word. Only after we got into the car did he suddenly turn his head and stare at me. I thought he would be so moved that he would burst into tears and question why I believed in him unconditionally and protected him so much. Then he couldn't help but hug me tightly. Finally, kiss me hard and can't help yourself. Result. How do you know Xiao Hingyu is also taking that kind of medicine? Have you been in his room? What is your relationship? I gasped and looked at the man in front of me speechlessly. Seeing that the smell of vinegar in the car was about to suffocate people, I moved forward and decisively hugged Xiao Yan's neck. The distance suddenly shortened, and his eyes became confused. Lean back and tell me not to do this. Explain to me clearly, what exactly, ugh. I leaned over and kissed him hard. Unlike the previous light kisses, this time it was more aggressive. His whole body suddenly heated up. After a few seconds, when he pushed me away, he had already become a cooked shrimp. Her eyes were watery, as if she had been bullied. I quickly turned around and sat back in the passenger seat. Bah, I really can't bear it any longer. Waving my hand, I signaled him to drive first and then listen to my explanation. Xiao Yan responded dazedly, turned around and drove obediently. I felt so soft inside. It's not that I don't want to tell Xiao Yan about the things in my previous life. But it was too unbelievable, and I was afraid he wouldn't believe it. Second, the previous life was too painful. I am in pain and he is in pain too. I don't want him to remember that. So I thought about it and made up an excuse. It is said that Xiao Hingyu was my former senior, but I accidentally discovered in school that he was not what he seemed. So this marriage was investigated in advance. The explanation was full of loopholes, but Xiao Yan didn't ask any further questions. Instead, he said something completely irrelevant. He is from the same school as me. Asked me why I didn't investigate him. Who said I didn't investigate? How could I know that someone has had a crush on me since freshman year without investigating? Xiao Yan's expression changed. When did I say I had a crush on you? I tilted my head to look at him and smiled. Xiao Yan reacted belatedly and turned his head back. After that, no matter how I coaxed him, his handsome face just blushed and he didn't say a word. Well, what else can I do? I'll just spoil him. I told Xiao Yan that Xiao Hingyu and the others would not let us go. If we don't take back the company's rights that belong to him, we will end up being ruined and penniless. Only if you have capital first can you fight against them. Xiao Yan frowned but said nothing. I knew he had shares in Trader Joe's, but I never managed it. Because that was the legacy left by his biological mother. The more he came into contact with it, the more he missed his mother. But it was because these shares were taken away from him in his previous life that his situation became so difficult. I can't let him, or us, make the same mistake again. I touched Xiao Yan's face gently and looked at him seriously. I know you don't like this, but I promise, once this is over you can do whatever you want. I'll support you from now on. I will always, always be with you. Xiao Yan was stunned and his pupils trembled violently. The next second, he hugged me tightly in his arms. I blinked, somewhat confused. But he soon let me go and said awkwardly. Who needs you to support me? I have plenty of skills. It's not that I didn't want to fight before, but I was worried that if something went wrong, it would implicate the Jiang family. Your parents must be very worried now, right? After a pause, he whispered. If something goes wrong, run as far as you can, you hear me? It was only later that I realized why he endured the abuse from Qiao's father and the Qiao family. My heart ached, and I raised my head decisively and pecked the man's lips again. I'm already yours, where else can I run away? Wherever you are is where I belong. Xiao Yan's face was half turned to the side, and his eyes were dark and unclear. But a few seconds passed and he held my hand. The force was so strong that it almost crushed the person. Jiang Yi, I won't let you lose. The next morning, Xiao Yan and I officially started our plan. In my previous life, Xiao Hingyu gave me to his business partner to play with, and made me work for him like a prostitute. In order to stabilize some of the company's old shareholders, he even sent me to their bed. But it is precisely because of this that I can engrave those people in my heart one by one. I know exactly how many dirty things there are in the Qiao family. Know who is dirty and who is clean. Who are resourceful and who are weak inside. With my reminder, Xiao Yan quickly got hold of some of the bugs. Later, he suddenly showed up at the shareholders' meeting, catching everyone off guard. As his assistant, I followed him and felt so relieved when I saw the faces of Xiao Hingyu and some shareholders change drastically. Some people judged that Xiao Yan was no longer worthy of being a shareholder because he had not managed the company for a long time. Xiao Yan sneered, dragged out a chair and sat down. I haven't managed the company, but my shares are contributing to its profitability. Unlike you, who seems to be working diligently all day long, but is actually doing something sneaky behind the scenes. I don't know how much money the company has lost under your rule. It's a miracle that it's still around. The old shareholders' faces turned green. He shouted that Xiao Yan was slandering him. He said that in his 8 years at Qiao's, the chairman had never spoken to him like that. Upon hearing this, other shareholders began to blame Xiao Yan, mocking him for being uneducated and daring to come here and embarrass himself. Hingyu, why don't you let people kick him out? It's disheartening to have someone like him in Qiao's company. The old shareholder shouted. Everyone then looked at Xiao Hingyu. Xiao Hingyu pinched his eyebrows with a headache. Ian, you've seen it too, it's not that I don't want you to stay. Well, go back first. I'll talk to my parents tonight and see if I can arrange something else for you. You don't need to worry about the company's affairs anymore. Why don't I take care of it? You are the only one in control of Qiao's company now? Xiao Yan interrupted him calmly. He said the shares were there and no one had the right to take away his rights. Mr. Kai, you think I've wronged you, don't you? He narrowed his eyes and glanced at the old shareholder, a cold light flashing in his bottomless black eyes. Then look at what these are. Then he raised his chin towards me. Go ahead and throw it in his face. I nodded in response and walked over with a thick folder. A folder was slammed hard on the old shareholder's face. With a loud bang. I called out to the old shareholder, knocking him and his chair to the ground. You could hear a pin drop in the entire office. I patted the non-existent dust off my hands and returned to Xiao Yan with a proud look on my face. Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan looked at me eagerly, with a capital 6 on his face. Others exploded seconds later. The face of the man surnamed Kai is very colorful. After struggling to get up, he pointed at me and Xiao Yan and cursed at me. But at this moment, the document I threw in his face was picked up by the person next to him. That person was the first person that Xiao Yan and I tried to win over. He read out the contents of the document with a look of horror, describing the money that Mr. Kai had embezzled over the years by taking advantage of his public office. Everything was laid out on the table. Mr. Kai was horrified, and by the time he reacted and tried to grab the documents, it was too late. The farce ended with him being taken away by the police. But Xiao Yan's first battle in this company also officially began. Before leaving, I glanced at Xiao Hengyu's extremely gloomy face and slowly raised the corners of my lips. Don't be impatient, it's just the beginning. In the next few days, Xiao Yan and I started to dominate the company. Everyone knows that Xiao Yan is violent and erratic, and there are rumors that he has a mental illness. He doesn't even have to teach people behind their backs. Even if I hit you in person, you have to hold it in even if you don't accept it. So many people started to feel nervous and walked around Xiao Yan. And those who have problems are trying to find a way to get him out. A plan full of loopholes, a trap set in stone. All the projects that were a waste of time and difficult to complete were handed over to Xiao Yan. They believed that Xiao Yan was a loser and would definitely mess everything up. However, the plan, which was full of loopholes, was quickly approved after being revised by Xiao Yan. And the practical results are very impressive. He easily avoided the trap and kicked out a few people who were not doing their work, which made the department more cohesive. And that project they just couldn't get through. This is because Xiao's rivals are manipulating things from behind. And this person is someone I have wanted to meet since I was reborn. He Yiming, the president of Xingyue, had always been the person Xiao Hengyu wanted to work with in his previous life. Unfortunately, he looked down on the Qiao family and never gave in. Xiao Hengyu even tried to push me over, but unfortunately he was a good man who loved his wife and didn't touch me at all. And in this life, after a series of operations by Xiao Yan and I, his position in the company rose sharply. The news frequently reported that the judgment on the second son of the Qiao family had changed from having mental problems to being a hidden person. Many people in the industry began to look at him with admiration and even proposed to meet him privately. Because the Qiao family has been managed very tightly over the years. Many people want to get a piece of the pie but can't find the opportunity. In their eyes, Xiao Yan is a rising star and a soft persimmon that is easy to take advantage of. It's perfect for collaboration. In a short time, Xiao Yan went from being despised by everyone to being a popular partner. Xiao Hengyu, who was once the center of attention, has now become ignored. After all, at the previous birthday party, I left him and chose his younger brother in front of everyone. Even if he maintains his image, there will be people who will question his ability. When Xiao Dongliang heard this, he was furious, but there was nothing he could do. And Xiao Hengyu. After receiving the call and learning that He Yiming agreed to meet, Xiao Yan and I immediately prepared to go there. I didn't want to walk downstairs and bump into Xiao Hengyu. There was a sinister look in his eyes and fatigue was evident on his face. So much so that when he first saw me and Xiao Yan, he almost didn't have time to put away his malice. But he quickly reacted and greeted me and Xiao Yan with a smile. Ian, you have done a good job during this period. It seems Xiaoyi is really your lucky star. Xiao Yan looked indifferent and raised his eyelids. What's up? The smile on Xiao Hengyu's face faded a little and he said it was nothing. By the way, I heard that you guys are also planning to go look for Mr. He from Xingyue. To be honest, it's very difficult to get cooperation from him, and He Yiming is definitely not a pushover. What bargaining chips do you plan to use to convince him? Xiao Yan replied nonchalantly, saying that there was a piece of land being auctioned in Dongqing. Xiao Hengyu was stunned when he heard this, and then frowned. Said that the land had no prospects at all. Ian, buying land is a big deal, don't be willful. Otherwise, if something happens to Dad. If there is no prospect, I will make it possible for him to have a prospect. Xiao Yan interrupted Xiao Hengyu, staring at him with his dark eyes and said. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean I can't do it either. After saying that, he walked away. I looked at his back with full of aura, and couldn't help but raise the corners of my lips. You are worthy of being my man. Following Xiao Yan to the door, I looked back at Xiao Hengyu. He was standing not far away with an expressionless face and a gloomy look in his eyes. When we arrived at Xingyue, He Yiming didn't come out for a long time, probably because he didn't like the Qiao family's intention to deliberately give us a warning. I didn't indulge him. After waiting for 5 minutes and seeing no one coming, I pulled Xiao Yan up and was about to leave. The secretary who entertained us was stunned and hurriedly tried to dissuade him. No need, I'll tell you Mr. He. He'll soon learn how to write the word regret. After saying that, I winked at Xiao Yan, who stood up and left without any hesitation. However, after the elevator door opened, He Yiming walked out with a smile. I've heard that the second young master of the Qiao family has a bad temper, and it seems he's even worse than that. Xiao Yan ignored him and just gave me a questioning look. I tilted my head to signal him that it was okay. Only then did he greet He Yiming indifferently. Then we went to the reception room and started chatting with He Yiming formally. When he learned that we were going to use the land in East City as a bargaining chip, his eyebrows raised. That piece of land, I heard, has a bad reputation. Are you two kidding me? Xiao Yan frowned impatiently, believe it or not. The corner of He Yiming's mouth twitched. I couldn't help laughing and felt very comfortable. That piece of land will be developed by the government in the future and become a popular treasure land. This is what I told Xiao Yan based on my memories from my previous life, and he believed it almost without hesitation. After a pause, I spoke slowly. Mr. He should know my identity. To be honest with Mr. He, Xiao Yan and I are targeting the entire Qiao family. So our sincerity is naturally sufficient. I stared at the man opposite me whose expression changed slightly, and whispered. It all depends on whether Mr. He dares to take this gamble. After he finished speaking, He Yiming stared at me for a full 10 seconds. As soon as he was about to speak. Mr. He, have you seen enough? Xiao Yan spoke with a fierce look on his face, a hint of danger in his eyes. Fuck. He Yiming almost lost his domineering image and replied unhappily that he had a wife. Xiao Yan still glared at him, feeling jealous. I couldn't hold back my laughter, and quickly hugged my little wolfhound and comforted him. Xiao Yan then calmed down and urged He Yiming. If it's okay, then it's okay. If not, we can change people. He Yiming's face turned pale and he said okay, isn't it okay if he agreed? At this point, the cooperation was achieved. After jumping out again, the more I looked at Xiao Yan, the more I liked him. I couldn't help but lean over and kiss him while he was fastening his seatbelt. He glared at me with a dark face and asked me if I knew it was dangerous in the car. Oh, then we can just go back? What can I do? Can you please? He was trying not to blush, but he couldn't utter a word of condemnation. I smiled and asked if there was anything I could do, like, not seduce him like that. He suddenly let out a deep breath, and looked at me with his dark eyes. It's clearly my responsibility to take the initiative in this matter. After saying that, he gently pressed the back of my neck with one hand and lowered his head to kiss me. My eyes suddenly opened wide. For a moment, I felt like countless stars exploded in the corners of my eyes. My heart stopped beating. Xiao Yan kissed my lips lightly, tossing and turning but still gentle to the core. My heart was pulled by him and sank completely. Soon, Xiao Yan and I took pictures of the land in Dongqing. There was a sudden wave of ridicule and abuse on the internet. This second young master of the Qiao family is definitely mentally unstable. He bought a piece of land that no one wanted without even looking at it. Alas, the eldest brother of the Qiao family is so outstanding, why is his younger brother so unpresentable? If Qiaos were handed over to him, it would go bankrupt within half a month. For a time, the people of the Qiao family also had some complaints about Xiao Yan. Several shareholders even united to drive Xiao Yan away, and called Xiao Dongliang for this purpose. In the conference room, Xiao Dongliang smiled faintly to comfort everyone, but every wrinkle on his face revealed greed and selfishness. He recounted what Xiao Yan had done these days and judged him with the words "I'm sorry, I'm embarrassed." Turning his head and glancing at Xiao Yan, the corners of his mouth drooped slightly. Don't worry about the company's affairs for now. Just do whatever you want. What about my shares? Xiao Yan asked, looking up. Xiao Dongliang frowned in dissatisfaction and said, What do you mean by your shares? They belong to the Qiao family. In an instant, Xiao Yan's face suddenly darkened. He didn't say anything, but the chill rising from his body formed an extremely strong oppression. The entire conference room became silent. I'll only say this once. Looking at Xiao Dongliang, whose expression changed slightly, he said word by word. That's not your Qiao family's, it's my mother's. You'd better not touch it. Xiao Dongliang opened his mouth, then his face turned cold and he said that no one cared about his shares. Hang you, he wants to give him cash immediately and then tell him to get out of the company. No. Xiao Yan looked at him coldly and said he didn't want money. As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere in the conference room suddenly became tense. Everyone thought that this meant that they didn't want small shares and were ready to get big ones. However, after a moment, Xiao Yan simply made a request to Xiao Dongliang. Xiao Dongliang paused, a hint of confusion flashing across his eyes. But he agreed without much hesitation. Xiao Hingyu next to him frowned tightly and moved his lips as if he wanted to say something. But after seeing Mr. Qiao's expression, he finally endured it. I stood aside with a frown on my face, my eyes always fixed on Xiao Yan. Seeing his eyes becoming increasingly cold, my heart ached. He's not in the right shape. Ian, shall we go? I thought Xiao Yan would hesitate, be unwilling, or even resist me. But soon, he turned around and walked over. He took my hand and walked out openly. But he didn't say a word until he got into the car. The force of his grip on me was a little heavy. I looked down at Xiao Yan's hand and felt a pain in my heart. Xiao Yan must be thinking of his mother. It was only after I was reborn that I asked someone to investigate his background. Xiao Yan's biological mother died of illness when he was very young. She suffered from a mental illness. I have seen pictures of his mother. She was a very gentle and beautiful dancer. She has waist-length hair and likes to wear beige long skirts. In the photo, Xiao Yan is wearing a small dress with a bow tie at the neckline. Exquisite and handsome. He was being held by his mother's hand and was dancing with her as her male partner. It is also the last dance in life. Later, his mother died that winter, but Xiao Hingyu's mother came to the house with her child. What was even more unacceptable to him was that Xiao Hingyu was older than him. In other words, his father had cheated on his wife several years ago. He was in pain, screaming, and collapsing, but he was just a child and could do nothing. He listened to his mother and lived a good life. It's just that the pain suppressed in my heart is too much, and I can no longer control my emotions. Ian. I called out softly, and Xiao Yan immediately raised his head and said he was fine. I felt the increasing strength in my hands, sighed, and pressed him into my arms. If you're unhappy, say it out loud. If you're unhappy, curse. You don't have to suppress any emotions in front of me. Xiao Yan's body trembled violently, and the hand holding me finally let go. I'm sorry if I hurt you. It's okay, I know you didn't mean it. Xiao Yan didn't say anything, but raised his hands and hugged me. After a few seconds, I heard a suppressed sob coming from my heart. Xiao Yan breathed heavily and wrapped his arms around my waist tighter and tighter. I felt his pain and couldn't help but have tears in my eyes. What a person fears most is not death, but being alive and alone. I am, and so is he. But as long as we hold each other, we will never be alone again. Don't be afraid, I'm here. I don't know how long it took, but the person in my arms struggled slightly. Jiang Yi, boring. I was stunned and let go of Xiao Yan. He quickly pulled away and sat back in the driver's seat, his ears red as if bleeding. The veins on his neck were visible. I looked down at my wrinkled chest and raised my eyebrows slightly. Bored? I see you're enjoying it, aren't you? Xiao Yan's face suddenly caught fire and he started the car in a hurry. I chuckled, and the gloom in my heart dissipated. After returning, Xiao Yan moved out of the Qiao family. He bought a house for himself outside. And I have been saving money over the years, all of which I earned from betting on cars with others or speculating in stocks and investing. I helped him clean the house, arrange the furniture, and turn the house into a home. He listens to me in everything, saying that it's too late for a grown man to be so particular. I said, oh. How about changing the bathtub to a double one? How about making the glass of the small bathroom in the bedroom transparent? By the way, the bed in the bedroom is not big enough. I need to buy a bigger one. Xiao Yan's expression started to look unnatural, and he stammered as he asked me why. I tiptoed close to his ear and chuckled. Otherwise, what if it's not enough for us? Xiao Yan's whole body tensed up, and his Adam's apple rolled rapidly. I was moved by his shameful look. I was just about to say I wouldn't tease him anymore, but the next second, he grabbed me by the waist and lifted me up. Xiao Yan threw me onto the bed and pressed on me before I even jumped up. Then came the overwhelming kisses. Jiang Yi, what do you want for your engagement party? After the kiss, he held my hand tightly and asked. I paused, then I remembered that we still had an engagement party to hold. Children from aristocratic families are too particular, so this set of procedures must be followed. After thinking about it, I said let's listen to him, I don't have any ideas. After all, engagement and marriage don't leave a good impression on me. Xiao Yan was silent for a moment, hugged me and said nothing. Half a month later, it was the day before Xiao Yan and I's engagement party. The internet exploded. Because the land that Xiao Yan and I photographed was taken over by the government. They plan to develop the area vigorously and the investment is expected to be huge. The biggest beneficiaries are naturally the owner of the land and related personnel. When he Yiming called, Xiao Yan and I were in his small company. Yes, he has his own company. He cut out his mother's shares and ran this company that had nothing to do with the Qiao family. Of course Qiao Dongliang was extremely happy. He felt that if Xiao Yan stayed, he would be a disaster for the Qiao family, and he couldn't wait to kick him out. But he and Xiao Hingyu probably never imagined that this was our plan. Only by completely breaking off ties with the Qiao family can we be safe when the Qiao family falls. Mr. Qiao, you should have seen the news about that piece of land online. He Yiming expressed his thanks and said that he would be on standby if he needed any help. Xiao Yan probably still remembered the grudge from last time, so he responded indifferently and hung up the phone. However, when he turned to look at me, the domineering president immediately turned into a puppy. He rushed towards me with sparkling eyes. Tired? I patted his head soothingly. Hold on a little longer, it's almost over. Xiao Yan paused for a moment and suddenly asked me how I planned to deal with Xiao Hingyu. His online reputation has started to deteriorate, and many of his partners had defected. Kick him out now and ruin his reputation? No. I looked at Xiao Yan's angular face and said that this would only lead to his downfall, but not to his reputation. I want him to feel despair. Xiao Yan looked up at me, and after a moment raised his hand and pressed it against my brow. I'll do my best to do whatever you want, don't frown. I was stunned and my nose felt sore. That afternoon, I said I had something to do and then parted ways with Xiao Yan. When I arrived at the door of the club, my body couldn't help but tremble. Even if the nails were deeply embedded in the palm of the hand, it could not be suppressed. This place is Xiao Hingyu's private club and also my nightmare. He keeps a group of high-class ladies here to vent for him and some so-called big men. Several times I saw girls being carried out of the room covered in blood. Those who come here are not human at all. They are beasts worse than garbage. After a while, I closed my eyes and walked in. I started thinking of a solution as early as when I was reborn, and now I have already planted spies in there. When I reached the floor that only high-level VIPs could go to, I heard faint sounds coming from the room. There were screams that were unbearable to hear, and cries for help that were extremely painful. Under the bizarre lights, it looks like a twisted hell. As I walked in it, I felt as if every part of my body was in great pain. But I still walked in step by step. After getting in touch with the informant, I asked him to hand over everything he had taken. Looking at the girl being insulted and abused in the video, I clenched my fingers tightly. After a while, I finished dealing with things here and prepared to leave. But just as he reached the stairs, he saw Xiao Hingyu walking towards him. He held a shivering girl in his arms, his eyes cold and bloodthirsty. My heart sank and I quickly retreated. For a moment, I didn't know whether to advance or retreat. If you move forward, everything you have done before may be in vain. If you retreat, that girl might be ruined tonight. Miss Jiang, it's time for you to go. After Xiao Hingyu left, my subordinate reminded me in a deep voice. I stood there quietly for a few seconds, and finally closed my eyes tightly. Go back and find a way to rescue that girl. Xiao Hingyu has been having a rough time these days. If he lets out his anger, he might kill that girl. My subordinates tried to stop me, saying that no matter how beastly he was, he would not kill people casually. He will. I suppressed the trembling in my heart and said that he would definitely do it. I know better than anyone else. The subordinate looked at me and opened his mouth, then lowered his head and said yes after a moment. As I expected, the girl had been severely beaten when she was rescued. Xiao Hingyu made her strip naked and lie on the broken glass, then whipped her hard with a wet whip. Except for her face, her whole body, even her lower body, was shocking. Xiao Hingyu was like a madman, getting more and more excited as he fought. Just as he was strangling the girl's neck and enjoying the sight of her suffocating, his men rushed in and said that there was a disturbance downstairs and they wanted to call the police. The moment Xiao Hingyu turned his head, he looked like a devil. But he soon calmed down. Not only did he change into clean clothes, he also calmly instructed his men to deal with the girl. I hid in the shadows and looked at his face, my chest almost bursting. After my subordinates told me that the girl was rescued, I immediately left the club. In the car, my subordinate looked at me again in the rearview mirror. "Miss Jiang, are you okay?" I suddenly looked up, pulled my wet collar and said, "It's okay." Then, going back to the Jiang family? "You have an engagement party tomorrow morning." "No, let's go to Zizuan Villa." I looked out the window, and the only face that came to my mind was Qiao Yan's. At this moment I just want to see him. However, what I never expected was that Xiao Hingyu actually prepared such a big surprise for me. Seeing that Qiao Yan's villa was pitch black, I vaguely sensed something was wrong and hurried upstairs. The moment I smelled the blood, my heart sank. He suddenly pushed open the door. The next second, I was frozen in place. I saw a naked woman lying at the door of the flooded bathroom, with some dried blood on her forehead. Qiao Yan sat on the ground next to the bathtub, holding a dagger tightly in his hand. But the dagger was not aimed at someone else, but at himself. It was his bloody arm. His eyes were so empty that it was frightening, and there was no trace of blood on his face. The whole person is like a walking corpse. When he saw me, he only paused for half a second, then picked up the dagger and stabbed me again. "Don't want." I rushed over and grabbed Qiao Yan's hand tightly. He was incredibly strong, yet he was stuck in place with me. I quickly turned my head and asked my men to go to the car to get a tranquilizer. The men turned around and rushed downstairs. "Ian, it's me, I'm back." I freed one hand to lift up Qiao Yan's face, forcing him to see me clearly. He was soaking wet, trembling and unable to calm down, but he still turned his gaze to me. "Jiang Yi? It's me." Qiao Yan showed a look of pain for a moment. He struggled to grab my clothes, but tried to push me away. He kept repeating my name, telling me to go away and that he would hurt me. I said nothing, just held his hand tightly. Soon the men came in and injected Qiao Yan with a sedative. He was still holding my hand tightly when he fainted. I asked my men to help him get on the bed and never let him go. After a moment, I spoke in a hoarse voice. "See if that woman is still breathing." The men turned around in response. In just a few seconds, countless possible outcomes and solutions flashed through my mind. The girl on the ground was not an ordinary person. She was the rich lady who had stuck to Qiao Yan in the bar before. Zhou Tian. If she died. Ms. Jiang. I paused and tilted my head. "He's not dead, he just has a wound on his forehead." The subordinate paused and said, "Judging from the physical features, it seems like he was drugged." I blinked and my mind went blank for a moment. Looking down at Qiao Yan's wet bathrobe, I nodded lightly. "I see. Let's get a doctor to come over and test her blood." "Yes." The men took Zhou Tian away, and the whole room fell completely silent. I stayed beside Qiao Yan, and the coldness in my heart spread bit by bit. If I'm not mistaken, there should be reporters lying in ambush near Qiao Yan's villa. They were staring at this place eagerly, waiting to uncover the scandal of Qiao Yan and Zhou Tian. Let tomorrow's engagement party become the backdrop for Qiao Yan and I's notoriety. I clenched my fingers tightly and slowly lowered my eyes. "Xiao Hingyu. Since you are so anxious. Then tomorrow will be your death." More than an hour later, Qiao Yan woke up. He sat up suddenly, hunching his waist like a wild leopard ready to pounce. Almost in the next second, the fist was about to swing towards me. However, when he saw who I was, he paused for a moment, then suddenly pulled me into his arms. "Jiang Yi." Amidst heavy breathing, he said in a deep voice that it was not an illusion. "Xiaoyi, I'm sorry." When I heard this, I closed my eyes. My throat was so sore and I couldn't say the words "it's okay." I didn't want to hear Qiao Yan say the next second. "You said you didn't like people coming into our house casually." "I'm sorry." My remaining conscious mind stabilized and I vaguely realized something. "What else?" Qiao Yan said in a low voice that there was no more. "I didn't touch her or look at her. When I beat her, I used something, not my hands." I was stunned, feeling both amused and helpless. Yet there is a vague joy of regaining what was lost. I know very well that even if Qiao Yan really did something to her, I would not blame him. But I still feel lucky when I know the truth. "Ian, thank you. Thank you for keeping me at the top of your heart, thank you for staying sober even at the cost of hurting yourself. Thank you for everything you have done for me." 32. After Qiao Yan woke up completely, Zhou Tian downstairs also woke up. She cried bitterly, saying that she was framed and drugged. But he never dared to look up at Qiao Yan. I looked at her and pulled the corners of my lips, wanting to laugh. Qiao Yan has already told me the whole story. He came back from outside and saw Zhou Tian who had been drugged. Zhou Tian cried and begged him to help her. He originally didn't want to pay attention to it, but he discovered the reporter hiding in the dark. If Zhou Tian were allowed to leave like this, the girl's reputation would most likely be completely ruined. You might even be targeted by someone with ulterior motives. He had no choice but to bring her into the villa, but did not allow her to go upstairs. Unexpectedly, this woman was so ignorant that she took off all her clothes and went upstairs to seduce Qiao Yan. When Qiao Yan took her out of the car, she accidentally inhaled some drug powder and her spirit was already fragile. So the moment he saw Zhou Tian, he didn't even hesitate. He picked up something and hit her with it. But under the stimulation of blood and drugs, his own emotions were also aroused. In the end, I can only stay awake by hurting myself. When I thought of the glaring wound on Qiao Yan's arm, my heart ached. After giving Zhou Tian a cold glance, I threw Qiao Hingyu out. Tell her that it was Qiao Hingyu who wanted to trick her. But you remembered it. If you hadn't been so shameless, this wouldn't have happened at all. Zhou Tian bit her lips hard, looking pitiful. I didn't buy it at all. I stared at her and said word by word. I'm telling you, if Qiao Yan and I hadn't been here today, you would have been torn to pieces by other men. I will hold Qiao Yan's injury responsible for your injury on your head. If you know what's good for you, I advise you to do as I say next. Zhou Tian was so scared that her face turned pale. Seeing that Qiao Yan didn't even bother to look at her, it seemed that she finally realized the truth. She slowly lowered her head and finally said, "Listen to me." The next morning, the engagement party went on as usual. The reporters who were lurking near Qiao Yan's villa didn't take any pictures. They only took pictures of Qiao Yan and I happily entering and leaving. When I arrived at the banquet hall, I saw Qiao Hingyu in the corner. He had a grim expression on his face and was listening to what the person next to him was saying. When the man finished speaking, there was only a sinister look on his face. Turning around, he quickly gave a few instructions to his men. I looked at him, as if he was facing a great enemy, and the depression in my heart gradually came out. Here we go. Not long after, the banquet began. Qiao Hingyu's complexion became worse and worse. He kept answering the phone, getting angry, and giving orders to his opponents. But it's just a drop in the bucket. I glanced at my phone and saw that the news was out. Qiao's company is suspected of tax evasion and is under investigation. Jiang Yi, it was you who did this. Qiao Hingyu's voice suddenly came from the other side. I raised my head slightly and met an extremely gloomy face. Are you fucking crazy? What good will it bring to your Jiang family if the Qiao family falls? If you want to be with Qiao Yan, then be with him, no one will stop you. What the hell do you mean by targeting our family? When did I, Qiao Hingyu, ever let you down? I looked at the madman in front of me and said silently in my heart, in the previous life. He hasn't really started to hurt me in this life. But the disgusting things he did were enough to make him die 100 times over. Seeing that I didn't say anything, the madness in Qiao Hingyu's eyes almost overflowed. He took a step forward and suddenly grabbed my arm, asking me to talk to him somewhere else. Open. The moment he touched me, my whole body started to spasm. But he held me tightly, as if he wanted to crush me. Looking at his expression, the fear in my heart quickly spread, and I lost my strength in an instant. Don't touch me, don't touch me. Don't touch her. The next second, Qiao Yan suddenly appeared and knocked Qiao Hingyu to the ground with a punch. His eyes were bloodshot and he exuded an unusual bloodthirsty aura. Without waiting for Qiao Hingyu to stand up, he punched him several times in succession. I came to my senses and thought he was sick again, so I hurried forward to stop him. Ian, there's no need to dirty your hands. Qiao Yan punched down hard again, hitting Qiao Hingyu's face directly. Considering me, he finally stopped. The anger in his eyes did not diminish at all, and he stared at Qiao Hingyu. I was a little surprised by his reaction, but I didn't care about anything else and pulled him away first. Soon, all the guests in the banquet hall gathered around. Seeing Qiao Yan beat someone up, they started talking about it. He openly and secretly called Qiao Yan a lunatic. Some people left the scene immediately because of fear. Amidst the chaos, I gradually regained my composure. I asked Xiao Yan what was wrong. He shook his head and said nothing, but his face was still ugly. I had to put it aside for the time being and tell him that all the evidence was ready. He stared coldly at Xiao Hingyu, who was not far away, and said, "Then let's get started." Just as the hall was in chaos, a video suddenly started playing on the big screen. The first half of the video consists of photos, which are enlarged one by one, and the content on them is all about Xiao's records, the black money that Xiao has earned over the years by relying on his cleverness and interpersonal relationships. It also records the illegal activities that Xiao Hingyu did with internal personnel after taking over the company. Finally, the video exposed the secret power for sex transactions among dozens of senior executives and even shareholders of the company. Ugly faces appeared on the screen, and the faces of those Xiao family executives who came because of their reputation changed drastically. Oh my god, what are these? Crazy, is Xiao crazy? Oh, I heard that Xiao Hingyu is young and promising. So this is his method of being promising. The Xiao family is finished this time. I don't know who has done this to them. Be careful what you say, or the police will arrest you and investigate. Amid the uproar, Xiao Hingyu became the target of public criticism. Countless people were pointing fingers at him and criticizing him, saying he was worthless. Some even say that it was he who caused the Xiao family to reach this point. Xiao Hingyu was bruised and swollen as he walked among the crowd, his face a mixture of blue and red. But at this moment, exclamations suddenly broke out from the crowd. What is that? Xiao Hingyu's private club? Everyone looked in the direction of the sound and saw the video playing on the screen. They are all videos from Xiao Hingyu's club. The girls in the video are blurred, but their experiences are obvious. The audience fell into dead silence as they watched some beasts in human skin insulting, torturing, and beating them. When Xiao Hingyu watched those videos, he was stunned. I watched the look on his face gradually replaced by despair. The depression in my heart finally dissipated a lot. You're welcome, you deserve it. Bastards, these beasts are bastards. The world is going downhill. Such a filthy thing is happening right next to us. This Xiao Hingyu is such a fucking beast, damn it. Crazy curses filled the air, and everyone's faces were filled with indignation. No matter how dirty they are in private, at this moment they must be righteous people who fight against the bad guys. Bang! Someone slapped Xiao Hingyu in the face and called him shameless. They said that the people in the video were a group of children about the same age as their daughter, so how could Xiao Hingyu dare to do such a thing? This slap seemed to turn on a switch. Many people rushed forward and pushed and cursed Xiao Hingyu. Xiao Hingyu was in a state of panic, his face full of fear. He dodged and pushed desperately, trying to squeeze out of the crowd. But I failed several times. Under tremendous torture, he let out a heart-wrenching roar. At the same time, sirens were heard outside. Xiao Hingyu escaped. When the police arrived, he took advantage of the chaos to slip away from the crowd. But I had already cut off his other escape routes, leaving him with only one dead end. I told the police that he might flee abroad by water. The police were skeptical, but they quickly sent someone there. Xiao Yan and I stayed in the banquet hall until all the guests left. We stood on the stage, put engagement rings on each other's fingers, and kissed gently. Realizing that something was still wrong with Xiao Yan, I couldn't help but frown and asked him what was wrong. Seeing that I was unhappy, he held my hand tighter. After my repeated questioning, he finally said that he knew that I had gone to Xiao Hingyu's underground club last night. I was silent for half a second and asked him, what next? Anger suddenly burned in his eyes again, and he said in a deep voice that he had also seen the girl I rescued. That girl's name is Chen-Yi. Chen-Yi? Xiao Yan said hoarsely. Xiao Hingyu specifically asked someone to find a girl who looks like you. I suddenly stopped. Suddenly I recalled the girl's eyebrows and eyes, and they seemed to be somewhat similar to mine. My heart sank slightly, and I felt vaguely nauseous. There's no way that rubbish Xiao Hingyu has any feelings for me. Maybe he was jealous of me but couldn't vent his anger on me, so he looked for someone similar to me. Grass. Xiao Yan suddenly kicked over the chair next to him and said that he wanted to kill the beast Xiao Hingyu. I looked at his angry face, but my heart felt strangely calm. Fine. Fortunately, everything went well. Fortunately, Xiao Yan is here. I gently held Xiao Yan's face and kissed her without saying a word. Xiao Yan's breathing became heavy, and after a few seconds he picked me up and put me on the table. Conquer cities and capture territories. The Qiao family was declared bankrupt, Qiao Dongliang was imprisoned, and Qiao's mother was sentenced to probation. The Jiang family was implicated and most of their property was confiscated, and my father was also dismissed from his position. But thanks to my previous precautions, they did not suffer any reputational impact. This is the greatest guarantee. I arranged a new place for them to live, and then I moved in with Qiao Yan, the home we had previously arranged together. After Qiao Yan settled me down, he was about to go out again, but I stopped him. Xiao Hingyu will catch him sooner or later, so stop worrying. Qiao Yan looked hesitant, and I pretended to be displeased. Why, am I less attractive to you now? You don't treasure it now that you've got it, right? In one sentence, Qiao Yan turned around and walked back without saying a word. He put his head on my neck like a big dog and rubbed it again and again. Finally, he said in a low voice that he would not feel at ease until Xiao Hingyu was caught. I said, I get it, but we can't waste our time on such a piece of rubbish. We're already engaged, are you willing to let your newlywed wife spend every night alone? Before he finished speaking, Xiao Yan's eyes had changed. Jiang Yi, it's only 9 o'clock now, are you sure? I laughed. The kid is a little crazy. It's only 9 o'clock, then go to bed early. I didn't ask you to work until dawn. Xiao Yan looked at me without saying a word, but his ears turned red. I was so happy that I deliberately provoked him and said, you are not capable of it, are you? Afterwards, Qiao Yan carried me back to the room and gave me a severe scolding. When I fell asleep, I looked at the time and it seemed to be just past 12 o'clock. Ian. I'm here. Hearing Qiao Yan's low voice, I fell into a deep sleep. I don't know how long it took, but I was strangled by such a force that I could hardly breathe. I woke up in a daze and found that Qiao Yan had sat up at some point and was holding me tightly with one hand. Sensing his uneasiness, I frowned, hugged him back, and asked what was wrong. This time I was shocked. For some reason, he was covered in cold sweat. What's wrong with you? Did you have a nightmare? Or are you feeling unwell? Speak up, don't scare me, Ian. It's okay. I'm fine. But Qiao Yan hugged me tightly and said that he just missed me. Jiang Yi, I love you. I was stunned, but before I could react, he kissed me fiercely. The next second, he ripped off the pajamas he had just changed me into before going to bed. 500 words omitted here. When I opened my eyes again, I felt like I had been run over by wheels several times. It took me a long time to lift my arm. I ground my back teeth, tilted my head and cursed. Wow, you can complete it all at once? You're not coming back for the rest of your life, are you? Qiao Yan, get in here. He shouted hoarsely, but there was no response from outside. I frowned. I thought to myself that if this bastard dared to leave me alone in bed so early in the morning, I would destroy him one day and make him my sister. As soon as I stepped on the ground, a figure came running towards me. Qiao Yan ran in with breakfast and shouted at me when he saw me getting out of bed barefoot. Don't move. He put down his breakfast and came over, pinched my ankle as a punishment, and then helped me put on my shoes. I was a little flattered, but also felt that I should be at peace with it. I'm a man. Curling the corners of my lips, I asked him what he did. He said he didn't know how to cook, so he just made some porridge. Then he brought the porridge over to me and pretended to feed me. I pushed him away speechlessly and said it was not like I was taking care of her after she had given birth. Qiao Yan just looked at me and smiled, his eyes incredibly gentle. I looked at him and was suddenly stunned. The look in his eyes when he jumped into the sea holding my ashes in my previous life came to my mind. Almost exactly the same as now. My heart felt warm and I leaned over and hugged him gently. Xiao Hingyu is dead. He died at 5 o'clock in the morning of that day. It is said that he died on the way back from being captured. Some said he died of a sudden illness, some said he was poisoned, and some said he was shot to death. I have no idea how it happened specifically. I don't want to know anymore. Because I know very well. Xiao Yan went out for a while in the morning. After stretching, I walked to the balcony and felt the sunshine. It seemed that only at this moment did I truly emerge from the darkness. The days ahead will be long and bright, full of glory. Jiang Yi, let's get married. Xiao Yan hugged me from behind. I smiled and said okay. Then I'll have someone prepare it right away, and we'll get the wedding certificate tomorrow. I was completely dumbfounded. Who gets engaged the day before and married the day after? But I've been waiting for a long time. A long, long time. Xiao Yan looked at me steadily, his eyes full of sincerity and passion. I looked at the man in front of me, and my heart softened bit by bit. After a while, I smiled and nodded. Then we'll get married. Extra 1, Xiao Yan. The night I was with Jiang Yizhen, I had a nightmare. It solved all the doubts that had been there for a long time. In the dream, Jiang Yi did not choose me, but chose Qiao Hingyu. Like everyone else, she believed that Qiao Hingyu was excellent and great. I don't think so. I know he is very scheming and has a dagger hidden behind his smile. But if he can be nice to Jiang Yi, and if Jiang Yi is willing, I can withdraw. But what I never expected was that Qiao Hingyu is a beast. The day before the wedding, he was caught fooling around outside by Jiang Yi. Not only did he not admit his mistake, he also slapped Jiang Yi and said that she had no way out. I was so angry that I wanted to rush up and beat him to death. But I found out it was just a dream. But in the dream, I had already left because I was too lost. Everything that happened afterwards flashed by like a revolving lantern, but it left a lasting impression on me. I saw Qiao Hingyu flirting with many young girls outside, but when he returned home he was very cold to Jiang Yi. Jiang Yi was very disappointed and wanted to try to leave the Qiao family and go out to work. When Qiao Hingyu found out, he became furious and beat her. My Jiang Yi just fell to the ground, and the bloody hole on his forehead continued to bleed until it stopped on its own. My heart was trembling with pain, but I could only stand and watch from a distance. Everything that happened afterwards was more like a horrible nightmare. Qiao Hingyu became increasingly violent, taking out all the anger he experienced outside on Jiang Yi when he came back. Not only that, he actually started taking Jiang Yi with him to socialize. At first it was just drinking, then it turned into random touching. It eventually turned into a sexual relationship. At that moment, I felt like I had died once. I began to desperately search for myself in my dreams, and finally found it. But I found that the me in the dream was framed by Qiao Hingyu and broke a leg while racing, and I began to fall from grace since then. I didn't even dare to go back and look at Jiang Yi. I understand, but I can't accept it. I actually met Jiang Yi once when I was very young. My mother was still alive at that time. I sneaked out of the villa to play, but was bullied by the kids nearby. They called me the son of a psychopath and a little psychopath. They beat me with a stick and made me kneel down and kowtow. Jiang Yi appeared at that time, wearing a beautiful and clean princess dress. She pointed at those people and said that if they bullied her again, she would tell her father. The children all knew who her father was and ran away immediately. Jiang Yi ignored me and skipped away with her braids shaking. She forgot me, but I remembered her. It wasn't until I went to college that I had the opportunity to see her again. At this point, it completely fell. The girl whom I cherish so dearly in my heart is now being trampled upon and insulted. But I couldn't even hug her. I could only watch her being tortured to a state worse than death, and gradually collapsing. My heart almost broke when I saw her take out a knife and commit suicide. I begged desperately, crying and yelling. Let him wait a little longer, wait for me to find a way to save her. In the end, she didn't die, but she was like a walking corpse. I was in so much pain that I felt as if it wasn't a dream. But it's true. If this is really a dream, please ask her to wake up soon. Later, as I wished, Jiang Yi's nightmare stopped. Stop at the car accident designed by Qiao Hingyu. Her body was broken into pieces, and her already skinny face looked like a ghost. But I think she is still so beautiful. I stretched out my hand hoping to touch her, but I didn't expect to actually touch her. At that moment, I merged with the person in my dream. We kissed Jiang Yi's body together, suffered together, and went crazy together. Together they turned the Qiao family upside down and together they killed Qiao Hingyu. The moment I jumped into the sea, I finally hugged Jiang Yi tightly. Next life. Can you meet me sooner?